All right, we are here with Chris Sletner of V Technologies, and Chris is going to be talking about StarShip shipping software. And StarShip integrates with major ERP software solutions, such as those from Sage Software, Microsoft, Exact, Epicor, Infor, and SysPro. So we look forward to hearing how StarShip can help expedite the shipping process integrated with these major software systems. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Adrian. Today we're going to take a look at the latest StarShip platform and some of the differences that have been incorporated since version 10. Initially, StarShip supported primarily parcel carriers. So you now have two modes of transport. You have parcel and freight. And you can see both of those here in the upper left-hand corner. You have parcel, which has all of the traditional small package carriers that you may be familiar with from version 9, such as UPS, FedEx, DHL for international, post office. And we also have some regional carriers like OnTrack on the West Coast and Speedy in the Midwest. Right next to that, you have freight, which consists of all of the common carrier or LTL functionality that was introduced in version 10. So you now have the ability to ship with your freight carriers for LTL shipping, to produce a bill of lading, palletize your shipments. And we'll take a look at that in another section of the presentation. First, we're going to focus on domestic parcel shipping. And the logic that drives which mode of transport comes up on the StarShip screen is typically driven by the ship via code on the order or the invoice that you're selecting. When you're retrieving the sales transaction, you have the ability here to select the transaction. You can either type it in, you could scan it in off your pick sheet, or you can do a lookup on the table by clicking on the spyglass, and that'll bring up all of your orders that you want to ship against. Besides sales transactions, you also have the ability to hook into customer tables directly. So if you have an address that you need to ship to, maybe a sample or a return that you don't have a sales transaction for, you can also access the customers here. Below that, you can jump down to multiple companies. You have the ability to ship against multiple data sets of financials within StarShip as well. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see once we select the transaction, this will fill in with data from the various tabs along the top here. So we'll go ahead and put in our first order. So StarShip will connect to the external database and bring over all the mapped values. And you can see here we have the source that we're connected to, the company and database, as well as the transaction. The transportation information consists of the ship via code, so you have the carrier and service that are translated, as well as the billing information. So if you're doing drop shipments, third-party or collect billing, you can also bring that over through the integration to have it flagged along with the account number that you want to bill. And then if available, you have the transit time for the selected service as well. Beneath that, you have the sender information, which is the return address that's used on the transaction. If you have multiple companies, you can set those up within StarShip and separate the charges on the manifest. Or if you're doing blind or drop shipments on behalf of your customer for order fulfillment, you could also map those as well. At the bottom, you have the recipient information. This is the ship to address that's going to be used on the shipment. This is pulled either from the order header or the line item level. Next to the address, you can see we have the green checkbox here, which indicates that the address has been validated. We now offer address validation as a standard feature across all modes of transport with StarShip. And that's hooked into the Dial-a-Zip database. That'll check your city, state, and zip. You can also add the standardized postal formatting for the zip +4 as a preference. We'll check the street address, the suite or apartment number as well, and whether or not it's a rural area, residential, or commercial. So it'll tack on any of the additional accessorial charges that the carrier will assess on the shipment on top of the basic freight. Moving over to the right-hand side of the screen, you have a number of different tabs available here, and you can set that up as a preference where you land. I have mine defaulted to the packaging tab, as this is where I'm going to build my shipment, and the cursor will move directly to the weight field, so it's waiting for input from the scale. You can set that up here under Setup Preferences. And you have different preferences that you can set for both freight and for parcel shipping. That can be selected here from the drop-down. Once you're on the packaging tab, you're going to create your shipment, tell StarShip how many boxes you're going to ship out. and you can do that in a couple of ways. You have these navigation arrows here. If I click on Next, that'll add a box to my shipment. And I can expand my view here. With version 10 or higher, you have the ability to take line item level detail and pack that into containers. This enables you to do a packing list as well, either for the outside of the box or on a piece of paper that you can put inside the container. So I've packed my items here. I can add additional boxes a couple of ways. There's a repeat function here. So if I have multiple pieces all of the same weight, I can easily tell StarShip by weighing the first box how many additional packages I want to add to the sequence by just typing in the number here. And then you have, all the way to the right, the add package and delete package icons. Once I've gone through and packed everything up, if I'm ready to process my shipment, I have keyboard shortcuts here in the shipment menu for all of my common program functions. So if I want to save, print, process, rate shop, those are all available here as keyboard shortcuts. Or I can go up to the toolbar and I can ship and process, or F5. That will print my labels and move the transaction onto the manifest. Or I can save as draft. That will stage the shipment and put it aside for a later date, and I can call that up when I need to make some additional edits, if I need to upgrade the service, change the attention, or basically edit any of the details within the shipment. I have the ability to stage the shipment, put it aside, and call it up whenever I'm ready to complete that. You may be more familiar with this as the deferred function from version 9 of StarShip. To navigate around the screen, I can click on the various tabs here at the top. I also have these icons all the way to the left where I can change the view from the item view, order view, and packaging view. And if we're doing freight, there's also the bill of lading view. You can also set the tab order, and this allows you to click on the tab key on the keyboard, and you can jump around from different fields on the screen. I'll demonstrate that here. If I click over on the shipment tab, if I'm preparing the shipment for a future date, I can select that here from the calendar. So I can stage this for any future date up to 6 months in advance. Here's where I also have access to all of my special services, where you have accessorial fees that are calculated on top of the basic freight. So if I'm insuring the package, adding handling on the fly, COD are the terms, hazmat, email notification, returns, any of those special services that need to be added on top of the basic freight, those can either be flagged here on the user interface or mapped through the integration. I also have my standard order reference fields here. Order number, PO number, those come over by default through the integration. You have a database of departments that you can build here, and this allows you to do some sorting on historical transactions if you want to sort by department. There are also user-defined fields, and you can rename these for any purpose that you want to designate them for. You have those at the shipment level. You also have them at the package level. If you're doing freight, you'll have 5 per pallet as well, 5 per item, and 5 per order. So you have several fields that you can use to scan or enter additional information as you're packing the shipment. I can also change the default carrier and service level here from the drop-down menus. So if I want to override what came over from our sales transaction as the ship via, I have the ability to do that here. Or you can also rate shop. If I click on the $ here in the toolbar, this will cycle through all the rates that are available on my system and present the user with a list that I can choose from. And from my list here, I can sort by the carrier and service level, the transit time, or the cost. And the pricing displayed here can either be the list price or the contract price, which enables me to see my true cost. We'll go ahead and stick with the selected service that came over from the sales transaction and process our order now. So when I click on Ship and Process, this is going to move it to the manifest. We'll see a preview of our shipping label here in just a moment. At the same time, it's going to push the data back into our ERP system, so we have that available for tracking purposes and tracking the freight. You have the shipping label. We have both thermal and laser labels that can be produced for all carriers now across the board. So in this case, we have our UPS label. Once we close that out, that'll refresh the screen and we're ready to move on to the next transaction.